Can y'all believe that we're basically at the midpoint of the year? I was talking to some of my staff today, and we were just in disbelief because it felt like just yesterday we were celebrating New Year's. But life is moving at a million miles per hour, right? And so today we'll talk about a mid-year review. And the reason why this is important is because the years stack up quick, right? I mean, I know I started Fed Legacy now. I've been saying 17 years now. It feels like for like the last two, but it's now 18 years, and it feels like yesterday that we started this, you know. And so I talked to a lot of federal employees, and they're like, Mr. Smith, I'm getting ready for retirement. And it just feels like I started yesterday. One of the things that's so crazy to me that is if a person started in 2001, they already have 25 years of federal service, which sounds so crazy to me. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that when we do these mid-year reviews, that we're looking at, okay, the things that we said we were going to do in January, that we're actually getting them done, right? And so what you want to do is you want to make sure that if you didn't start something that you said you were going to do at the beginning of the year, that you actually get it done sooner than later. And here's the thing. When it comes to putting more money in your TSP, when it comes to changing how you have your funds invested, and you're like, well, I want to wait till maybe there's another president, or I want to wait till this war is over. I want to wait till my kids finish college. Whatever your reasoning for not doing something financially, here's what I would like to say to you. Start small, no matter what it is. That's been my motto from day one. Start small, because if you don't start at all, you don't create no momentum. But if you start small, you can create momentum. It's like if you ever hear the thing that people talk about at the beginning of the year all the time, it's like, well, just save a penny a day or something, and double it. And then over time, it's like it starts off as a penny, then it's 2 pennies, then it's 4 pennies, and it's 8, 16. And before you know it, the momentum has gotten so high that you're making really big chunks and big dents in your retirement. So I would say the same thing to you. Wherever you are, start small. One thing that I always talk about is making sure if I meet with someone and they're like, well, I'm only putting 5% of my TSP, for example. I'll say, well, and they're like, but I want to max it out. 5% to the max is a really big jump. But how about we just start at 6? If you're at 5, let's start at 6. Start at 5.5. Start somewhere. And then every year commit to yourself that you'll do the same thing the next year. And I can't tell you how many times that small bit of advice has made a huge difference in people's lives. And so, especially folks that were like in their late 40s, early 50s, just had no clue they were going to retire anytime soon. But we had met with them over the years, and when we were having those conversations, it was like, well, now I have to retire a lot sooner than I thought. But because of the momentum that they've created, they were able to create in their life, they were able to retire. I remember it was two particular ones that stick out to me. They were both 49 and going on 50, and they were just done with their respective agencies. And when we looked at their TSP along with their pension, the numbers weren't as bad as it seemed. But the big difference was they were able to put a lot of money in their TSP over the years. Those small changes made a huge difference in their life, where something could have been a disaster, but it didn't feel as bad. And so what I like to tell you today is just make sure wherever you are, any New Year's resolution that you started off the year with, just start. I'm the same way with my fitness. Like at the beginning of the year, I have all these fitness goals, and I look up and summer is coming up. I'm like, I still got this gut. And so then I started doing all right, I got this Peloton right here. Let me just hop on this thing. And I started doing like the 20-minute workouts, like, because it's like, and a friend of mine saw I posted it on social media. He's like, why are you doing them week 20-minute workouts? I'm like, look, this is where I need to start, and just start stacking them. That's why I was at. Still struggle, but I'm still stacking them. I bought my little my Aura ring thing. All these little accountability measures to keep me in the game. It's not easy, but you just want to start somewhere. And so the middle of the year, let's make sure that we hit our goals this year. So I'm gonna share my slides here, and we'll just go through it. And another huge thing when it comes to accomplishing any goal, the best place to you can only start when you know where you stand. I was reading a book, and it was talking about like really getting honest with yourself. And there's so many of us just are not honest. Like I talk to people, and they're like, "Well, how much?" I ask them, "How much do you have in your TSP?" It's like, I don't know, Mrs. Smith. I haven't checked that thing in years, and I just don't. And then when they look at it, like, "Oh, I'm all right. I'm doing better than I thought." Or it could be the opposite, where it's like, "Well, dang, I really need to do more." But at least now the ghost is out the closet. The boogeyman that was haunting you is either know that, oh wow, I don't have any boogeyman because I'm doing pretty well, or you know what the boogeyman is now, and now you're able to do something about it. So the first thing is just knowing where you stand, knowing what's in your TSP, knowing what your Social Security income is going to be, knowing what your projected high three is going to be, knowing what your debt is going to be, and getting that stuff laid out. And that's one of the things that I demand of people when we meet, because people are like, well, I haven't found that. Let's just go with an estimate. It's like, no, like let's pull up the statement. Let's see where you are. Let's get the truth out there. Because once we have the truth out there on all aspects, now we can really make some changes. And so, again, I talked about this last week. Your problem isn't information; is making sure that you have a plan that you can execute on. And it being the middle of the year is a perfect time to execute on your plan. Now, what type of plan do you need to have? There's about 6 things that you want to make sure you focus on. You want to focus on the income strategy. We talked about that, what your income will be. What your taxes are going to be, the tax strategy. The risk, what are your risks like? Do you want to do, are you a aggressive? Are you moderate? Or are you conservative? That's typically the range that, from our perspective, is what we use when it comes to making sure people meet. We're supporting people in the fiduciary capacity. It's conservative, moderate, aggressive, right? And those 3 different areas apply to people in different parts of their life and for different reasons. So you want to make sure you understand your personal risk tolerance and why, though, not just what you feel, but why that is, and have a conversation about it. You want to talk about how much protection, right? So there's risk, and then you want to make sure you have protection. Then legacy, making sure you have, when money does pass on to those that are the next in kin or your spouse and things like that. How is that being distributed? And then the next thing is just the execution of it all. How do you bring all of that together to operate as one machine? And so you should be looking at that stuff mid-year. Look at where you are on all these boxes, right? Because things change, and so as a federal employee, when it comes to the income, you have 3 streams of income that you're going to be looking at in retirement. You got your pension, you got your TSP, you got your Social Security. You want to know where you stand with those 3 so that things don't catch you off guard once you go to retire. And I see it all the time, and it could be for good or bad. It's like, I was talking to a lady this week, and she's married. She recently got married, and she was just going through her retirement, but she was talking about her spouse, and she just didn't. She thought the TSP was an automatic income stream, and I was like, no, it's not. And she thought that the box that on the TSP statement that has what she can get for the if she annuitizes the TSP, that she thought that was going to be the income. So she was a little bit discouraged until I broke it down that, no, this is how that works, right? And she had been planning as if that was the case. And so when I showed her the different options that she can have, and how cost of living increase works, and how she can delay Social Security if she needs to, and all those different type of things, survivor benefits, it completely changed her outlook on retirement. So again, you want to know where you stand with those 3 income upstreams. And so the next thing, the TSP and the taxes that you have to pay. Here's the thing. There's no way for you to avoid paying taxes on your TSP, no matter what people say. I hear people talk about, I heard you could put money in a certain IRA that's gonna make my money tax free. Now, no, you can roll money into an IRA and it be tax free on that rollover. But anytime you take money out, you're going to have to pay taxes on that. And the taxes that you pay on that are based on what your taxable income year is for that year, and also what the tax bracket is that year. Right now, tax brackets change, right? Presidents change tax brackets. And so depending on who's president at the time, what the state of the country's in at the time, and oftentimes it's tied to the country's debt of what the taxes are. You see it talked about all the time in politics, where like, okay, these Trump tax cuts has raised the national debt. And so maybe to offset that, Democrats might raise the tax. We don't know on certain tax brackets. But, as federal employees, the thing that you all have to realize is that when it comes to higher tax brackets, federal employees are typically in a higher tax bracket in retirement than your regular worker, just because you all have a fixed pension that most people don't have. And so because you have a fixed pension, you're automatically going to be in a higher tax bracket. And so, well, not automatically, but because other people can draw off their 401k and things like that. But you all have a set point that you start at that is higher than most Americans, just because you have a pension that's fixed every year, plus you have Social Security. So you just have to understand, when it comes to taxes, that it could impact you if they raise taxes, right? And so you want to make sure you have a strategy in place for that. So again, you can't avoid taxes, but you can strategically reduce the amount of taxes that you pay by being preemptive on what you do. And so that's a key aspect. a mistake that a lot of people make going into retirement and going back to what that lady I was talking about earlier is sticking to the 4% rule, taking systematic withdrawals off the TSP that are based on the 4% rule. That isn't really made for you, where you look at what you have and you take 4% per year. That is something that is made for your average worker because you all have a pension. That type of strategy, I mean, you could do it, but it's not effective. And so you just want to make sure when it comes to income strategy, you have an income strategy that's designed specifically for federal employees. Because if you go by what the masses do, it just doesn't work out in your best favor, right? And so when it comes to when you turn on CNBC or a lot of these financial blogs on Instagram and TikTok, it's crazy that's where we get a lot of our stuff. But like this is where you have to be wary because a lot of times they talk about do all this safety stuff, but your pension is already your safety net. And so you don't have to be very aggressive. Like I talk to people all the time, like I was talking to someone and they told me I need to put all of my money into this safety IRA or safety annuity and things like that. Yeah, we do annuities, but we don't ever believe in putting more than 50% of your money there. We always want to keep a lot of that money in growth. And so a lot of times people sell you on those strategies for income and it's not beneficial. I was talking to a married couple yesterday and they had went to a seminar and a guy out of Maryland, he was telling them that they needed to put, and they had quite a bit of money. They had about 1.6 million in their TSP, but he was saying that they need to put about 800,000 into a lifetime income annuity, and they were thinking about it, right? They didn't know no better. This presentation sounded good, but 800,000 into a lifetime income annuity was the worst thing they could have needed. Their bills, I mean, their income surplus on their expenses was over 5,000 just with their pensions and everything else they had going on. So locking up 800,000 into a safety income annuity did not work for them. Now it works if they didn't have a pension, right? But they had a pension, so they didn't need to tie up that type of money into a safe annuity like that. They just needed an accumulation product or accumulation IRA or be aggressive with it, still be aggressive with a portion of their TSP, put a certain amount aside, but not tie it up. And so you see a lot of this stuff that's become popular things for people to talk about, but it works for people that are non-federal employees because non-federal employees need a pension, but you all have a pension. So it's not something that you all need, right? And so and so when coming back to that safety, one of the things that you see a lot of folks do, if we see a lot, is a lot of people, especially in uncertain times, move all their money to the G fund and let it sit. No, you want to have some money, if you need to have some money in the G fund, but you want to have a mixture of protection and growth. And when you have a mixture of protection and growth, it might change at different points of your life, right? But you want to make sure you have some strategy around that because it makes a huge difference in the long-term growth of your money. So I want to give you an example of and this is a person, a couple I met with this week, and just actually yesterday, and we were going through. We've been talking to them for a while, but I just thought that their particular situation would be interesting for this mid-year review because they had the husband's the one with the TSP, and you can see here they have over 1 million in the TSP. He's retired at the end of the year, and we have been talking to them and supporting them and helping them grow this over the years. And so he had 1 million, and so now he's like, okay, well, I'm ready to start moving things around and start implementing some of the tax stuff that we talk about. And so he had 1 million, all of it in the TSP, in the traditional IRA, traditional TSP. What we changed was because his wife in this particular hadn't worked a lot. She didn't have a huge pension, and he really wanted to make sure. Well, she didn't have any pension and not a whole lot of Social Security. He wanted to make sure that they were drawing enough income to really support their lifestyle, which is a decent lifestyle. And so he wanted to make sure that he had $3,500 a month coming in off his TSP to raise it up. So we put it in order to do that, we had to put about 450,000 aside for that to fund that $3,500 a month that he wanted, and then we put the remaining into the growth bucket, the remaining 578 into growth. And he had it in the life cycle, but we were moving that money that was we're moving money out of the TSP, but then the money that was remaining, we put it into a growth situation, and we put conservative estimates on the return here, right? So we set it up like this to make sure he gets his 3,500. And we also, on top of that, we put a 2.5% inflation boost on there. Now I know that's below the inflation amount, but he's getting cost of living on the TSP, not TSP, the FERS pension, Social Security, and this. So we put cost of living increase on this. And then we also opened up a Roth IRA so that he can do Roth conversions as well because he has quite a bit of money in traditional. And so here's where it ends for him. And this is at age 80. When we look at the estimate on his accounts with him taking that 3,500 and the increase every year, and he took a little bit of money out for debt. In his current scenario, if he would have left it like it was and took that income from the TSP in the life cycle fund like he had it, and all of it coming out of one bucket. At age 80, he would have had 1.8 million in his TSP. Still a lot of money. It's not there's no question about that. But if you see this red ring here, this red ring shows how much of that money would still be qualified money. And in that case, he would have $1.6 million in qualified money. Not bad. But if I've talked many a times about the 10-year rule. In this case, if something would happen to him, his family would probably be about 40% taxes roundabout on that 1.8 million. What we did when we structured it with taking the income from the protected bucket, leaving more growth money in the TSP, and then also doing the tax strategy at age 80, he's looking at 2.5 million now. And since this green ring means all of that money's in a Roth account. That means there's no taxes owed on it. Big, big, big difference. Same money, different strategy. And like these are the type of things that make a huge difference. And this is why having information plus a plan makes it just is a game changer. And this is the type of information we just hadn't been at. I know my parents didn't have access to simple things like this. And this is why we go to conferences. I go to a conference pretty much once or twice. Well, 3 times a year, big ones that I go to. And I try to slip another one in there. So once a quarter, we're going somewhere, always trying to increase our education. And because tax laws are constantly changing, products are changing, investment, it's just a constant moving thing. And we just try to stay ahead of the curve on this type of stuff. But these type of things matter because now his family's getting 2.5 million in this projection versus where he was headed. That makes just a big, big difference, right? And so, you want to make sure that you're protecting the right things. And so this right here on the mid, also part of the mid-year review is speaking about FEGLI, right? So FEGLI, we talk about this all the time. Check your FEGLI, see if you're doing option B or not, and making sure you drop that option B, fix your costs, so that you can put more money in your TSP. Our thing at Fed Legacy is always about how do we get our clients to put more money in their TSP. Life insurance is great to have. Get yourself a term policy, fix the cost, lock it in for 20 years, because the cost won't be that much. And then put the money you save back into the TSP so that you can have balances like this when you retire. Because you got 2.5 million. I mean, I know this is an example, but in your example, whatever it is, this type of money sitting aside when you retire, when you pass on, beats an expensive life insurance policy for that amount that you have to keep into retirement. And oftentimes people just can't keep up with that payment. Right. And so the next thing is once you have your life insurance protected in a way, have your income strategy, your TSP strategy, your risk versus growth, your taxes, all that stuff, once you have all that, you're going to accumulate money, and then that money has to then pass on to your family. And so you want to make sure you have an estate plan, a trust, all that type of stuff set up so it passes on to your family in a way that, one, you can control and kind of guide in retirement, not just leaving a bunch of money for people and they have no idea what to do. And I always say is you want your family to be able to continue the conversation that you've had with them while you were living when you pass on. And so what I mean by that is having trust in estate plan set up for your family so you can talk about it. One thing I love to do is when people say, hey, can I bring my kids onto the call when you're talking about my retirement? I love doing that. When we sit on the call and it's like 3 different boxes and it's kids and they're curious about their parents' finances. And I talk to the kids. I'm like, well, this is what this means. And then the parents are talking. I'm like, and y'all better not blow this. And we laugh and joke about that. I love those conversations because that's what we have to do as people to really be able to be competitive in this country, honestly. And so with that being said, is the reason why we started Fed Trust and Wills, right? Now we partnered with some attorneys and we are able to do estate plans and trust. And, we're here to support you in that journey. We were referring that out for quite a while. And just because this is an old industry, it was just the attorneys that we were dealing with, where we were referring it out to, we had a hard time getting a reliable source for our clients to go to and really complete that process. And I just got tired of hearing clients like, well, yeah, I talked to that person, but then they never called me back, or it just didn't go like I thought. They just pushed paper on me. we've bought that in house. They now work with us. We handle the whole process inside of Fed Legacy, and they're accountable to my leadership team. And so we make sure that we're delivering the white glove service that this type of conversation lends itself to, because something that I believe is that we have to get into the habit of leaving wealth, in the habit of starting businesses, in the habit of starting foundations, in the habit of giving back in significant ways, so that we as a community can continue to grow and thrive. Because if you look at what the federal government represents for us as a people, because I started this for us, and it's like opportunities like this we cannot blow, because it makes a huge difference that we have this amount of financial stability coming into our communities. And I don't know if we'll have it again, but this opportunity, we have to take what we have and multiply it. And that's just something that I wake up every day thinking about. How can I take this family further? Because that's what it's about. And so Fed Trust and Wills, we help do that as well now. We will do with you when we get on the call with you, if you want to set up a time to talk to us about it, we'll run you through your retirement readiness assessment that takes you through all of those categories that I just named, see where you are, and then we help you connect the dots to get you to the place where you're confident. Because you want to make sure that out of all those places that you're doing well in at least 4 to 5. Right? You want to make sure you're doing well, because it can make a significant difference. And so, people, you want to get through the starting line, gain momentum, and then ultimately you're at the finish line. So if you haven't started paying attention to your TSP, you're at the starting line. The minute you start paying attention, the minute you start adding more to your TSP on an annual basis, you're gaining momentum. And then before you know it, you're at the finish line. And I got to tell you, it's amazing when I have those conversations with folks, and they're like, yeah, when I first started in the government, it was an older coworker that told me, put all my money into CNS and don't touch it. And then max it out or put this in there. And I did it. And now I look up and I got $1.3 million. I just never even thought I could do it. And I see that all the time. People that parents didn't have anything, they just did couple little things, started at the starting line, gained momentum, and boom, they're at the finish line. And I love to celebrate with clients on the phone when they have a significant amount in their TSP, or even if they don't have a lot, they have more money than their expenses. And I'm like, well, your TSP can continue to grow for your family, even though it might not be a whole lot now. You don't got to touch it so it can continue to grow. And I love celebrating that, because these are real impacts, and that should be you. It should be your family, because you worked hard enough, and you deserve it. So if you want to book a call with us, you could just drop plan in the chat, and we will make sure to get in contact with you and do our free retirement readiness assessment. And then, if you want to talk, after we do that assessment, we do 3 more calls with you to really unpack everything. We do a strategy session, closing the gap session, and then we help you set up anything that we think you may need. Right. And so we make it so many calls, because we really like to, we want to build a relationship. We want to make sure we're not missing anything. And we want to make sure that we help you reach your goals. And so, again, if you want to book a call to retirement readiness assessment, just write the words plan in the chat, and we'll make sure that we get you scheduled, or click the link that our team just put in there and schedule a call. It's a free readiness assessment, and you'll be meeting with either me or one of our other advisors, and we'll get you taken care of.